beyond the rankings. If you only look at the rankings, this match looks ordinary. World number 53 meets world number 80. A mid-round clash in an early season warm-up tournament. No final. No trophy. No massive spotlight. But that is exactly why the entire WTA is quietly watching this match. Because this isn't a story about rankings. This is a story about who is truly ready to dominate the next generation of women's tennis. Just a few days ago, Alexandra Eala forced the experts to rethink all their assumptions when she eliminated an Olympic silver medalist in Auckland. It wasn't by luck. It wasn't just a hot day. It was something far more terrifying. Control. Control of the tempo. Control of the psyche. Control of the moments where young players usually crumble. And then, as a scripted, the next challenge appeared. Not a veteran past her prime, but someone rising just as fast. Petra Marčinko is no stepping stone. She is a former junior world number 1 and an Australian Open Juniors champion. She is the type of player coaches call built for 5 years from now. That is what makes this match dangerous. When you beat a veteran, you defeat the past. But when you face someone like yourself, same age, same hunger, same dream, you are gambling with your own future. This is a mirror match. No one has the ultimate experience advantage. No one is allowed an emotional slip-up. On one side is Alexandra Eala, the attacking lefty, entering what analysts call the belief phase, the moment a player begins to believe they belong on the big stage. On the other is Marcinko, the gritty right-hander, fresh off a grueling 3-set battle, carrying the specific hunger of those yet to be recognized. The real question isn't, who will win? It's, is Alexandra Eala ready to not just cause surprises, but to start imposing a new order? If you want to understand tennis not just through scores, but through the moments a generation is defined, that is the story Pro Tennis 360 pursues. Subscribe so you don't miss the matches that people will look back on years from now and say, it all started here. When rankings fade, character remains. On paper, the matchup is simple. World number 53 versus world number 80. A clash most casual fans would scroll past without a second thought. But in the WTA analysis rooms, this is the kind of match that makes people stop and look closer. Alexandra Eala is entering the most dangerous phase of a young player's career. The stage where winning starts to create expectation. After taking down an Olympic silver medalist in Auckland, the question is no longer does she have potential, but has shifted to how will she handle the pressure that follows. In women's tennis, many talents explode early, then plateau the moment opponents start preparing for them properly. That is Alex's true test in this match. Because her opponent isn't here just to learn. Petra Marčinko enters the court with exactly what Alex just acquired. The belief that she belongs on this stage. A former junior world number 1. An Australian Open Juniors champion. And most importantly, a player who hasn't yet been defined by any major failures at the WTA level. The fascinating part is that they are almost mirrors of each other. Same generation. Same junior pedigree. Both transitioning from rising star to contender. But how they reached this point is completely different. Alex has gone through matches that forced her to learn emotional control, how to stay calm when an opponent accelerates, how not to panic when momentum shifts. Her last win wasn't just a victory on points. It was a prolonged psychological exam. Meanwhile, Marcinko comes into this match with a specific recklessness of a player with nothing to lose. She is ready to drag out long rallies, take high-risk shots, and isn't afraid to turn the match into a physical war. This is the dangerous intersection. If Alex wants to climb to the next rung, she cannot rely solely on the euphoria of her previous win. She must prove she can replicate her performance, not just peak once. She must prove she can beat another young rival, not with fame, but with pure competitive character. If you watch tennis to understand why some players transcend while others vanish from the radar, this is the kind of match Pro Tennis 360 always dissects. Subscribing isn't about listening to emotional predictions. It's about tracking how a new generation defines its position, starting with matches exactly like this one. When technique ends and psychology begins. At this level, every player hits the ball well. Powerful forehands, stable backhands, fast serves. The difference is rarely pure technique. It lies in the mind. This is where the match between Alexandra Eala and Petra Marčinko becomes incredibly intriguing. Alex enters this match with something that is both an advantage and a burden: momentum. After her high-profile victory, all eyes are on her. Opponents study her more closely. Expectations are higher. And mistakes, if they happen, are magnified significantly. This is the moment where many young players start to tighten their arms. But the positive sign for Alex is how she has handled tense moments recently. She doesn't rush to finish rallies. She doesn't take wild risks just to prove something. Instead, she chooses to pull her opponent into situations where they must hit one more ball, then one more. In contrast, Marcinko enters with a completely different mindset. She doesn't need to protect a reputation. She doesn't need to maintain an image. She is here to disrupt the order. Such players are often very dangerous, especially in the first set when everything is still wide open. This psychological difference will reveal itself early. If Alex wins the first set quickly, the match could drift in her favor. But if Marcinko drags Alex into long games and forces her to save break points repeatedly, the pressure will shift. That's when the big question arises. Does Alex have the patience to accept an ugly match, one without beauty or highlights? Career-defining matches are rarely pretty. They are the matches where a player must win by not losing themselves. Tactical battle, lefty in position or power counter. Tactically, this is not a balanced matchup in the traditional sense, and that creates the tension. Alexandra Eala is a lefty. This automatically changes the entire map of the court. Angles open wider, slice serves become more awkward, and most importantly, she has the ability to force opponents into uncomfortable backhand positions. For a young player like Petra Marčinko, this is a difficult puzzle. Marcinko thrives on flat, early strikes and tends to accelerate rallies rather than patiently building points. When that works, she looks dominant. But when forced to hit an extra shot, errors begin to creep in. Alex's strategy, therefore, isn't about hitting harder. It's about hitting the right spots. If Alex consistently pulls the ball to Marcinko's backhand, changing the height and rhythm, she can make her opponent lose patience. And once Marcinko starts hitting faster than necessary, the errors will come. But this strategy requires high discipline. The moment Alex gets impatient and tries to end points too early, the lefty advantage disappears. Then, the match becomes a pure power struggle, where Marcinko is more than capable of dealing damage. This is what coaches call mental chess. No one wins with a single move. The winner is the one who makes fewer strategic mistakes over 90 minutes. The match that defines Alex Eala in 2026. Ultimately, this match isn't just about Petra Marčinko. It's about how Alexandra Eala will be perceived for the remainder of 2026. If Alex wins, especially in a tense, drawn-out match, she sends a clear message. Recent victories were not accidents. She doesn't just beat the big names, she can also overcome the young, hungry, and dangerous peers. This is the transition from the underdog who upsets to the player who must be beaten. Conversely, if Alex falls, the narrative will flip immediately. Not because she is inferior, but because the WTA is an environment that doesn't allow you to stand still. Every loss becomes data for the next opponent. This is why top players always say, the hardest match isn't the one against someone better than you. It's the match you are expected to win. For Alex, this is that moment. She is no longer an anonymous name. She is no longer allowed to just learn. Every action on court, how she reacts after a double fault, how she keeps her rhythm when leading, how she closes out a set, is being memorized. Years from now, when people look back on her journey, they might point to this match and say, that was the moment we knew she truly belonged in this elite group. The silent enemy of young stars, expectation. There is a truth rarely spoken in top-tier tennis. The moment you are expected to win, the match becomes significantly harder. This is where Alexandra Eala stands now. Previously, Her wins were viewed as pleasant surprises, a positive story, a sign of potential. But after Auckland, her role has changed. She is no longer allowed to lose to learn. She is now the one whose opponent steps onto the court thinking, if I win this, everything changes for me. That pressure doesn't show up on the scoreboard. It shows up in every small decision. A second serve, whether to go for a drop shot, a split second where you wonder, should I play it safe? Young players often crumble here because they start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. This is the threshold Alex must cross. On the other side, Petra Marčinko is far freer. She doesn't carry the weight of proving anything to the system. Every game won is a reward. Every set extended is a psychological advantage. The longer it goes, the more the pressure shifts toward Alex. What is notable is how Alex has begun to adapt to this new role recently. She doesn't try to execute the match too early. Instead, she accepts playing long points and ugly games where only pure focus gets you through. That is the hallmark of a player learning to live with expectation. The pivotal moment. One game can decide it all. In most high-level matches, the result isn't decided by the set. It's decided by a single game. A game that lasts over 10 minutes. A game with 3 missed breakpoints. A game where both players know whoever wins this takes the psychological high ground. This is where the Eala versus Marcinko match could pivot. For Alex, the key isn't avoiding mistakes entirely. That's impossible. The key is her reaction after the mistake. A double fault might happen. A forehand might fly long. But what defines class is the very next shot. Top players don't play perfectly. They just don't let one error lead to 3 more. Marcinko, meanwhile, tends to funnel her energy into explosive moments. When she wins a long rally, her confidence skyrockets. When she loses a crucial game, her rhythm can derail quickly. This is the double-edged sword of emotional players. If Alex is sharp enough to pull Marcinko into neutral games, not too explosive, not too fast, she will gradually gain the upper hand. But if she lets her opponent feel the match is running at her own tempo, things become extremely dangerous. This is why coaches say, win the boring games, the ones no one remembers, the ones that don't make the highlights. They are the foundation of victory. Crossing into a new chapter. Suppose Alex wins this match. She doesn't need an easy win or a highlight reel. Just a win in the truest sense. Its meaning would go far beyond the next round. It would tell the entire tour that Alex Eala is dangerous even when she isn't the underdog. She is dangerous even when the opponent is fully prepared, even when the pressure is at its peak, and even when facing someone as young and hungry as herself. That is when the story changes from can she do it to who is going to stop her? Regardless of the result, this match is a milestone, a litmus test, a crucial data point in the journey of a player finding her true place in the new generation. These are the matches that deserve closer scrutiny and deeper analysis, rather than just a glance at the final score. The crowd as a tactical element. One thing statistics never fully capture is the feeling of walking onto the court knowing every point you play is being scrutinized. For Alexandra Eala, the atmosphere in Auckland is both a motivator and a test. When all eyes are waiting for you to keep winning, support can quickly turn into invisible pressure. An out ball is no longer just a mistake. It's a moment that forces you to reassure yourself. For seasoned veterans, this is normal. For a player still asserting her position, these are deep waters. Marcinko, however, enters with a different mindset. She has no one to please. She doesn't carry a must-continue narrative. Every moment of silence from the crowd can even become her advantage, allowing her to play to her own beat. In matches like this, the crowd reacts to the momentum. If Alex starts well, the energy will lift her to another level. But if the match drags on and Marcinko keeps chasing, the weight of expectation becomes heavy. This is where top players separate themselves, not with winners, but by locking their emotions away and playing as if no one is watching. One match, 2 career paths. In tennis, some matches decide more than just who moves forward. They decide how you are perceived for months, even years, to come. This is one of them. If Alex clears this hurdle, the narrative surrounding her shifts significantly. She moves from the noteworthy talent group to the player to be reckoned with group. Opponents will no longer play her with an exploratory mindset. They will prepare meticulously to break her rhythm. That is the sign you have truly entered the big game. Conversely, for Marcinko, a win here would be a massive leap. It would tell the tour she isn't just a potential name from the juniors, but a player ready to collide at the highest level. Such wins often have a chain effect: more confidence, better scheduling, and bigger opportunities. Both understand this isn't just a nice-to-win match. It's a match that must be handled correctly. Not perfectly, not dominantly, just correctly. A milestone, not just a result. When this match ends, the scoreboard will only tell a fragment of the story. What matters more is what it leaves behind. Did Alex prove she can win not just as the underdog, but as the one defending expectation? Did Marcinko show she is ready to step out of the rising star shadow to become a genuine threat? These questions aren't answered by highlights. They are answered by how each player handles pressure, controls tempo, and reacts to key moments. And that is why this is the kind of match that, years later, people will rewatch and say, all the signs were there from the beginning. If you want to follow tennis that way, where every match is a chapter in a long story, then partnering with Pro Tennis 360 is the choice for those who want to understand the game, not just see how it ends.